In a move that is all too common, we are getting a 10-year-old game released on Switch this week with Red Faction Guerrilla Remastered Edition. I love that they do those tricky things with Remastered over there at THQ. Speaking of, another THQ joint, which brought me one of my favorite ports on Switch this year with Darksiders Warmastered Edition. Get it? Warmastered Remastered, because Red Faction takes place on Mars. In case you guys don't know, they're very clever with names over there. But how do we feel about a game that is so old? We continue to see this over and over. Dante just came to the Switch recently with a Devil May Cry release. A lot of Resident Evil, a lot of Final Fantasy games that have had their heyday are now on our favorite hybrid platform. Now, I love playing these things on the go, and in a lot of cases, I have no problem playing through them again. But does Red Faction Guerrilla deserve another go-around on Nintendo Switch? Or is it maybe good enough if you have never played it? Let's get into it all. First off, let's just set up what the game is. It is a very traditional, at this point, open world game that takes place on Mars, warring factions, a lot of destruction at the time in 2009 when the original game was first released. Destructible environments were like awesome, and not that they're not now, but we've seen them on way bigger scales. Even Crackdown 3, which is a game that isn't really popular or successful in any way, has some incredibly impressive destruction. I know Fortnite, you can build and destroy on your own, and that's kind of what this game like reminded me a little bit of. You take out your melee weapon, you have this hammer, and you go like start breaking down a wall, and I instantly just, and maybe this is just a testament to how popular Fortnite is, I start thinking like, oh, this feels like the first incarnation of Fortnite from 10 years ago. Now, you're not building or anything. This game is nothing like Fortnite. It's structured in a much more traditional open world way. You have hostages to rescue, you have outposts to go destroy, you have missions to do, there's side missions, upgrades. It is very traditional in its core game design. And to me, that's one of those things that kind of hold this game back, because, you know, ever since then, we have got a plethora of open world games. One would say that at that point, they just kind of took over gaming, and we got more and more and more on a bigger and bigger and bigger scale. And at some point, they just stopped becoming super impressive because, you know, bigger worlds, more dynamic, you know, explosion, more dynamic story and things like that. So this game being, you know, the age that it is, it doesn't have so much of that, because ever since this game released, we've seen other open world games not only do exactly what this game does, but do it way better. So for me, that's one of the things that stops this game from holding up. One thing I do want to note is that the Warmastered edition itself isn't even new. It was released last year on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, so we've even seen this version of the game. Like most of the game, the gameplay itself is pretty traditional. The guns don't feel particularly good. I run into that problem that I run into with Switch an awful lot, where I find myself like aiming by moving my character. Maybe that's just how I'm supposed to be aiming all along, and it never really like hit me until now. I don't think the aiming feels precise. I don't think that the guns feel particularly powerful or anything like that. But at least in my opinion, it feels like the gunplay itself has taken a backseat to the fact that everything here is destructible. I find way more fun just throwing like mines at enemies or vehicles and just watching everything blow up. That to me is a really cool aspect of the game. There's weapons to unlock and upgrade. There is a lot to do, you know, as with most open world games, but at least for me, with the opening hours of ReMARStered, since I did play the game originally, it really hasn't felt like this type of gameplay has evolved or really held up super well, in my opinion. Even now, in 2019, when a game like this releases, a new game, I'm not talking about Red Faction Guerrilla just being re-released at this point, I'm saying a new open world third-person shooter game like this, I feel like even in 2019, they're like stale, right? And that's because they have different elements that, you know, weren't around back when this was first released. Even with all the refinements of the genre, I still feel like this is one that is starting to kind of like tear me down a little bit, because we play so much of them and so many games now have elements like this. I know that's just a bigger problem. It may not necessarily be a factor to you if you haven't played a ton of these, but for me, that just like definitely sticks out. But while the game itself isn't impressive to me, the port is. If you've maybe played the original Red Faction way back in the day, because this is a sequel to another Red Faction game, and then this one has a sequel, Red Faction Armageddon. I'm not sure why that one isn't the one that got ported over, but regardless. the port itself is quite good. THQ just keeps publishing these awesome ports. They started with Darksiders, and that gave me the option to select between a performance mode and a visual mode. Do you want a higher frame rate that's like super stable, or do you want just the game to look a little nicer, right? I want that option, and I am happy to report that Red Faction Guerrilla Remarstered has that. God, I feel like every game on Switch that isn't already 60 frames per second should give us this option. Give us a little bit less good looking version of it and give us the frame rate that we want. And I know that I'm not probably the biggest like sticker for frame rate anyways, but it improves the game so much more. I've played both a little bit. I tried the performance mode. I tried the more visually like improved mode, and honestly I prefer performance. The improvements of the visuals aren't anywhere near good enough for me to sacrifice some of that frame rate. It's definitely choppy in certain areas because there's so much going on with explosions and a ton of enemies. There's a lot in the game, so for me performance boost is right in the sweet spot. I think THQ Nordic should be commended for doing as good a job as they are doing with these ports. One can only hope that when they continue to do this, if they continue to do this, we see more of this. Darksiders 2 is next on my list of things I want to see from them. Please make it happen. So with the game being a traditional open world like action shooter game that doesn't do a lot new really, especially since destructible environments are way more commonplace now, and the performance being what it is, which is good, where does it stand? Does it have value? Does it hold up? The game also has multiplayer, just wanted to throw that in there quickly, but at $30, I feel like if you are a fan of Red Faction, sure, get it. If you want an open world shooter on Switch, this to me foots the bill. It straight up just does what it needs to do. Now, are you gonna love the story? Who knows, probably not. I don't think that's the focus here. For me, the gameplay is more the fun in this one. So, do keep that in mind. All right, so let's talk about the price point, $30. If you've never played the game and this looks interesting to you, I don't think that you regret purchasing it in any way. Sizable story, there's some cool multiplayer stuff in there. I don't know how the community's gonna be since the game isn't out yet. I'm not able to explore that, but I do feel like even just playing through the story, it's long, it's an open world game. I feel like you get your money's worth at $30. I wish it was $20, that would have been nicer, and maybe you see the game on sale at some point. If you're skeptical about it, but you have a little bit of interest, wait for a sale. I don't think that anyone is gonna be like dying to play Red Faction Guerrilla Remarstered, but I also don't think anyone's gonna be disappointed. I'm like right in the middle of the road with this one, because there's a lot I don't like. The traditional aspects of the game and the fact that I played it before, for me, doesn't quite do it. But again, if this is a new experience for you, I think you're gonna have a decently good time. If you've already played it, then definitely wait for a sale. There's no reason to go grab this like right away, in my opinion. There's so much cool stuff to play right now, including Super Mario Maker 2. Maybe save your money towards that. I don't think it's a bad game. There's like little slight annoyances here and there, like when the map is coming up, there's like a slight load. There's like very long loading screens, but once you're in the world, like you don't have to worry. It's only when you like die and start loading into things for the first time that you encounter all this, but it is what it is. Good port, long loading. Those are my biggest gripes there. And what was once fun destruction aside, I don't feel like there's really much here for people that have played a lot of these games, open world games in particular recently. So, I'll leave off with that. Thank you for watching. That has been my thoughts on Red Faction Guerrilla Remastered Edition. It's not bad by any means. It's just, hey, if you experience it, you don't need to pay $30 to experience it again. The port's good. You know what you're getting with this, a traditional open world game, for better or worse. But with that, I am gonna go ahead and get out of here. Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate the support. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Twitter link is in the description, and we will catch you on the next one. Switch Force out.